Hey everyone, this is my very first YouTube video, and I wanted to kick things off with some of the worst things there are about being an employee. Now, don't get it twisted, there are some good things, of course, about being an employee at a company. There's stability, more structure, certainly some good things, but there are some bad things. So today we're going to be covering the top 10 worst aspects about being an employee. Number 10 is how much just being an employee or having a job is put on a pedestal by a lot of people in society. I'm sure if you haven't, said it yourself, you've probably heard it from somebody else that a lot of people encourage people to, as a kid, stay in school, study hard so they can one day get a good job working for somebody else. Like, that's the highest thing that they can aspire to. I wish that people talked more about the benefits of being your own boss, more about the benefits of having a company of their own. And again, even if it's not going to be something that's a multi-million dollar success, even finding a way to be able to have your own thing that generates even $50,000 can sometimes be more fun and more advantageous to being an employee. Number 9, the amount of time you'll spend working on busy work. Things that are not really going to be impactful at the company, but maybe there was a process that was written 10 years ago that is no longer relevant, that you should not be doing anymore, but your boss wants you to be doing that thing because it's a safe thing to do, because it's what's always been done. You as an employee will have to be following that direction. And a lot of times, I know in my own experience, you can end up filling a lot of your day with what amounts to just busy work. Number 8, not even knowing what the end goal of what you're trying to accomplish is. And this can make it really hard to work creatively if you reach a roadblock. If you don't know, what your boss is actually working on or what they're trying to accomplish, this could be a case where they just give you one small piece of the puzzle, telling you to fill out one report, not knowing that it's ultimately going to be connected with other reports, right? So, or they might ask you to, pull a list of all price changes, and you have to do a certain task, not knowing what they want to know is how many price changes have actually taken place. Now, if they ask that question, you might already have a different way to answer that question. But again, if they just say, hey, I need you to pull all of these reports together, without knowing what they're trying to accomplish, you have to just do those things. So it can make it really hard to work creatively, really hard to be engaged when you're not even sure what that end goal is. You're just doing what your boss is asking you to do. And not every boss is going to allow you to push back on that. Number 7, the double standard of loyalty in companies really amazes me. The idea that you're supposed to work loyally for a company, show up, be on time, be committed and engaged with this company, but the minute that they have an opportunity to replace you, to outsource your work to China, as can be the case in some instances, if they have a way to be able to get that work done with machine learning, some algorithm, or they can just automate something in a factory with a robot, they will gladly do that. And they will very also gladly let you know that it's just business, it's nothing personal. Now flip that around. Let's say that you as an employee go to your boss and let them know that you were offered a higher paycheck or a higher offer for a competitor or for another company. A lot of times you're going to be told that you're going to feel bad about that. They're going to make you seem like this horrible person. And I think that if that arises, I think the best thing you can do is just let them know, of course, that it's just business. Number 6, being passed over for a promotion that you want. Now, when you're an employee and you're working in a corporate type of structure or any kind of a job, somebody else gets to tell you when you're ready to take that next step. You might realize that you're ready to push yourself, that you're ready for more responsibility, that you're hungry for more. You can absolutely realize that about yourself, but you don't get to do that until somebody else wants you to do that. And not only that, but there's times that the person who actually gets selected in place of you might be somebody that you deem, to be not as qualified as what you are. There could be a new guy coming into the company or a new girl coming into the company that's only been there for a few months who might just gain favor with the boss or might be related to somebody in the company or related to the founder of the company that gets promoted to a role that you're much more qualified for. And as an employee, there's not a lot you can do about that. If you're your own boss, you can take on as much additional responsibility as you want to and when you want to. And you can learn from that. Certainly, if you're your own boss and you're doing your own thing, You might be able to, or find yourself in situations where you're biting off more than you can chew, and you can scale it back as you see fit. You have control over that. Number 5, not working the way that you want to work. There could be a different report that you think would be able to capture the business performance much better than what you're currently doing. But if your boss doesn't approve of that, you're not going to be able to move forward with that report. Or let's say that you're actually already doing a particular thing or accomplishing something that you agree needs to be done, but you want to go about it a different way, take a different path to get there, and following something that makes more sense to you. You might not have that freedom and flexibility to do that if there's a certain process in place that says you have to run reports or do your job in a particular way. As an entrepreneur, you do have that flexibility to do it the way that you want. And once again, you can take that information and you can learn from it. You can understand if that actually worked better or not. If you enjoyed it as much as you thought, it's kind of like you get to make these little experiments, throughout the course of your day and career as an entrepreneur, and see what works and what doesn't work and adapt to that. Number 4, as an employee, you don't have control over your time. Now, I know some employees are lucky enough to be able to work remotely, but even in those cases, if your boss calls you up and says that they need a report to be delivered by that afternoon, you're going to have to be spending your afternoon delivering that report, of course. It gets even worse in terms of control over your time if you need to physically be at a job from 8 to 5. When you need to physically be there, of course you have a lot less control over your time. And compare that with being an entrepreneur or having your own business or being your own boss. You might find yourself trying to win a new piece of business or working on a big project that you know is going to take a lot of energy and a lot of time. You would have the complete flexibility to work on that, all day and into the night. Let's say you're working on it until midnight, but you finally were able to win the client. You're able to finish the project. You're able to do what you wanted to do. Let's say also that that your calendar is completely clear the next morning. You would have the complete freedom to wake up at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, start your day whenever you would like to, right? Because you're your own boss. If you spend a late night in the office working on a project that you're excited about and you actually are successful, you often cannot use that as a reason or a valid reason to actually show up later the next day or be well rested the next day. Number 3, getting fired for doing nothing wrong. Now, of course, sometimes, as an employee, you can do something that's just, terrible enough to truly justify getting fired. If you're late enough, if you're lying, you're not consistent, you're just not churning out a good work product, of course it can make sense to get fired for those reasons. But you can also essentially get fired or lose your job for the company just going out of business. So you could dedicate years or decades of your life to a company and just have them completely fold for nothing that you had done. You could be doing a great job for your area of focus, your area of expertise, and you could still lose your job for that reason. Or even if the company is doing well, they could be bought out by a larger company, and all of a sudden your job might be irrelevant, or they might want to keep that job, with the other person at the other company, or just eliminate that kind of job altogether, in which case, again, you're doing nothing wrong. And once again, you could find yourself in a situation where you've dedicated years or decades of your life to a company and having to start all over again. Number 2, the amount of time it will take you to build wealth as an employee. Now, first of all, most Americans are only saving just a couple % of their annual income a year, if that. There are a lot of people that are in fact going into debt and not saving anything. But even if you were to save 10 or 20% of your paycheck every year, it would still take you decades to reach financial freedom based on what the average American is making a year. With starting your own business, you would be able to build wealth much faster if you're able to actually have a successful business. That is a huge motivating factor. You could achieve financial freedom within a matter of years by having your own business if it works out. And another thing about that is that not everybody gets their first business venture to work the first time. Sometimes it takes that first couple failures that leads to that ultimate success. And again, you would be able to fail multiple times trying to be your own boss or trying to be an entrepreneur. And let's say you don't get it right until 10 years in. you could still be way ahead of the game than if you were just simply trying to save a little bit of your paycheck. Now, the number one thing I hate about being an employee is not being able to directly participate in the growth of the company. A lot of times there are exciting initiatives about a business in terms of maybe getting a new customer, winning a new book of business, or just having existing items just sell better in general. And a lot of those things can bring millions of dollars in sales and profit that can be very exciting for the company. But as an employee who's either hourly or salaried or not in some kind of commission form of payment, you're not going to be able to really see any difference to your own paycheck as a result of those good things going on with the company. And it makes it really hard to get excited about it when you know you're not going to be participating in those benefits. And in fact, think about it. If the company won a new customer, but they were going to get $0 from actually winning that new customer, the company itself would not be excited about winning that book of business. But when you're your own boss and you have your own company, if you work hard and you're able to grow your business, you get to participate in that directly. And that's very rewarding and energizing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think my boss is calling. Those are the top 10 things that I hate most about being an employee. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree, disagree? Do you have any other things that you don't like about being an employee?
That's all.